Pierce.
This was the contract we had last meeting. We didn't have we were missing pages, so now you
Right.
have pages. The contracts to complete our industrial pre-treatment plan and to impose surcharges, penalties for industrial users.
So the cost is $47,800?
This meeting.
So what will they do for us?
They will analyze our headworks influent and tell us what's there as far as pollutants, nutrients, metals, etc., etc. Before we can impose penalties, if we set surcharges for exceedances, example, BOD, or let's say we do nutrients, for TSS, if we do a copper limit, or whatever we do for a limit, we have to have our own local limits established to be legal. And it gives us the right to impose based upon our regulations, our numbers, and we can say, here's the exceedances for the industrial businesses that are out there.
And how many tests will they do in order to create a baseline?
I have no idea. It's kind of a generalization.
Yeah.
They'll do what's required by law. This is regulated by the EPA, so they'll do what's required of them.
So we just hope there's not a lot of pollutants at the time they test.
Whatever's there is there. Whatever's there is there.
Yeah.
Like we have a problem with phosphate. I'm getting phosphorus coming at me like crazy. The numbers are
Yeah.
ridiculous. I'm fighting to get it down. I'm using PAC like crazy, and it's disrupting the entire plant.
But we have no idea where it's coming
I can't tell you
from.
where it's coming from. Now I have to chase it. I gotta go pump station to pump station to pump station to pump station.
Will they
trace
do
it
that?
back. No, that's not their, they will figure out if they find something that's ridiculous, they'll try to help us solve it, but they just need numbers. We have to establish limits
So they do a benchmark.
of everything that's right, everything that's in our wastewater.
Right on page 5, right? Pretty much a
sorry?
breakdown is right on page 5 of what they're gonna do.
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
They kind of
right on
do
page
some
5.
statements there. We had submitted our industrial to pre-treatment program to the EPA, and they said, that's nice, but you don't have any local limits, and you gotta have local limits. And they gave us 3 names, and Wright Pierce was a name that they would recommend, because they know what they're doing. They have a track record on these. That was their recommendation.
Sandy, oh, never mind. Now I found it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's the top of page,
5, 6.
yeah, at the very top.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the contract for Wright Pierce for $47,800.
I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4. 400. The town meeting articles.
Sandy did a good job I see nothing wrong with it.
Oh, there's a lot,
Well, I mean,
finance had an issue with it.
what's finances issue? We can resolve it, whatever it is, whatever their issues are.
Okay, what was? Go ahead, Sandy.
Well, we can't apply capital projects that have already been approved against this, so that bottom statement I have regarding FY19 and 20 meetings have to be removed.
All right, remove them.
And it hasn't, I thought this was approved loan, waiting for town meeting approval. Do we have the money, waiting for town meeting approval or not?
No.
SRF funding
Yeah,
is authorized, SRF funding is authorized, it's approved, we're on the list for $9 million.
okay, so we've been.
We have to accept it.
No. My question is, has it been approved pending the town's acceptance?
SRF fund DEP is approved $9 million for the town of Wareham. It's on the
Okay.
list.
So
We have to
WPC,
It's on the
accept it.
list.
Yeah.
okay,
Once we accept it,
On the
we'll
list.
fill out the paperwork to apply the official application, etc., etc. There's a process.
so can I make this statement? WPCF has been approved for the $9 million loan. We require town meeting approval to move forward on this loan.
What about if we just say that we've been approved to apply for the $9 million loan?
So if you remember, a couple
Because
of years
that's
ago,
what-
we
That's essentially
submitted,
what it is.
yes, we submitted
Yeah.
for this money. And so they vet everything and they say, okay, you put a big list out, so the town of Wareham, you've got your $9 million. So that's fine. Now,
Okay.
if you don't accept it and follow the process, then you don't get it. It's that straightforward.
So this would now read, WPCF, this is in the explanation, has been approved to apply for the $9 million loan. We require town meeting approval to move forward on this loan. Is that a correct statement?
Russ, is that, there's you?
Yeah,
It's-
it's correct. It's
Yeah.
really, it's like a pre-approval, what
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mass DEP
that's
did
what I
now.
thought, I just wanna make sure.
We have to
Okay.
go through the formal approval process.
Right.
But if they pre-approve you, and as long as the application is complete,
It's
it's there.
Okay.
That is a process.
So, and it would be that the $9 million would be used for future WPCF capital upgrades approved at town meetings.
That's true, yeah.
Okay,
So, this, can I?
Go ahead, Pat.
Okay, so there's still a little problem. And that is, you have the okay to apply for it, okay? To apply for the loan, right? Is what you're asking for. But that's not a borrowing article. And what you're trying to do is borrow money. And you need to have a borrow article in order to be able to do that. That you cannot borrow money without it at town meeting.
But it doesn't say to borrow 9 million?
Yeah, but that's not, a borrowing article has a lot of stuff in it, and you have to have bond counsel and everybody work on that to make the proper article. Otherwise, it's not gonna happen. That will be useless at town meeting, if you're borrowing money. There's a lot of things that are required in a borrow thing, whether you're, no matter where you're getting the money from, whether you're applying for it someplace else or whatever, you're asking to borrow money. If you're asking to borrow money, there's a procedure at town meeting that's required to have borrow money.
so we're asking to apply for the borrowing.
Right, that's all you're asking to is apply, so you
So-
can apply, but then you're gonna have to go back to another town
Town meeting
meeting.
to ask, yes, so to see if the town will vote to allow the water pollution control facility to apply.
Correct. Now, when you do, after you apply, and you definitely have the approval in your hand, you're gonna have to go back and have a
Yeah.
borrowing article to borrow the money.
Understand, so
Okay, just before, what was
this is just to apply.
DEP is looking for an authorization to borrow from the town meeting, and they said
Okay,
it's
so then you need a
straightforward.
borrowing article.
They said it's an authorization, they said what you need is an authorization to borrow.
Correct.
And they're gonna give us the $9 million, we're gonna borrow from the SRF funding.
Right, which is a borrowing article.
Because I talked to John, and he said, yeah, just get the approval and we'll do the paperwork, we'll get it going. So I'm not an expert on this, but I do know that the DEP, SRF fund, and the email, Derek's got the email, because Derek forwarded it to me and to Russ, because he's involved, he's actually CC'd in all this, and they're asking for an authorization to borrow at town meeting.
So that isn't what you're gonna be voting on. Ultimately, you're gonna need a borrowing article, so just ask, what you wanna do is just ask, council, we'll ask council to put together a borrowing article for you, and then you can vote on it finally, you know? But if you're just asking us to put it on the warrants, we'll put it on, subject to the borrowing article, the actual motion being written, which we
Okay.
do on every one of them, anyway.
Okay. So it's not gonna be a problem, we're gonna be able to
No,
move forward with it, Patrick?
no, the article will have to be written though properly.
And
We'll
that's,
take care of that.
yeah, okay, great.
So what do I say in this one?
You can
Just
say,
Need authorization to borrow,
motion to borrow $9 million from the FRF.
Yes.
Is it FRF? Is that what it is?
SRF.
FRF funding. Okay, that's all you really need, that's the article. Then we'll put together a bond article, a bonding article.
do I put anything in here that says a bond article needs to be written?
I would-
Or
Well,
don't
it
bother?
has to be, because the motion will have to be written, that's just the notification that we're asking to borrow $9 million. That's all you're doing is notifying the public, we're gonna borrow $9 million from this fund. And then the article will be written in the proper verbiage to borrow.
So if I submit this on Monday morning,
Yep.
I move that the town vote to allow the water pollution control facility to borrow $9 million from the state revolving fund for town meeting approved plant improvements. That's the motion.
Correct.
The selectmen will say yea or nay to put it on the warrant, and then it would be up to town council
To put
and
the bond
John
borrowing-
Foster to put the
yes.
right words together to bring it forward to
Because
town
they will
meeting.
have to clear that through bond council.
Yeah.
Which is a separate entity, so, just so you know, so that's how it goes, all right, so that's fine.
because it does say the town meeting approved plant improvements, so nothing will be borrowed until town meeting approves it.
Right.
Right, correct.
Okay,
That's
so
good.
I can make this
And then we'll put
up.
the motion on, the proper motion, and you'll be all set.
Okay, so I can submit this on Monday
Yes, you can.
Yep, okay.
as modified.
In my opinion, that's true.
Do we need to do a motion on that, accept that?
Yeah, yes, we don't have approval to,
Okay, make a motion.
I make a motion that we, move forward with, Mrs. Slavin, Sandy's, article.
no, the WPCF.
Article, it's an
Motion
article.
to
One and the
the,
same.
It's a motion to request the selectmen to put it on the warrant.
Yep.
Sure.
That's my motion.
second,
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
400. Thank you for clarification on that, Pat. Waste of time to put the thing through and have it flop. Okay, C Street, is this beta document?
Yes, well, everything's there, so you
Yeah,
got your
okay.
letter of recommendation, we had the bid opening, there's your letter of recommendation that went to Mr. Sullivan, so you got a copy of it. You got the actual bid docs, you can see the bond, the requirements that we have, it's all in there, so I want you to have it and see it. And then there's the actual contract that we sent to Mr. Bowen for approval. Mr. Bowen has no problem with the contract, what he wants to see is the bond, the performance bond. There's a bid bond, but he doesn't see a performance bond. I thought I saw one. I know I definitely saw the bid bond, and I'm gonna look at the performance bond, and that's all he needs. So once I get the performance bond, then this is gonna go. So I need the sewer commissioners to endorse it, so I can put it through the proper channels of get this to move forward. They got all kinds of bonds, but I'm looking for the word performance, and they may not be.
It's too many trees here.
There's a lot of that. Not really functioning. The two lawyers have been working on this, I'll lawyer and they'll.
That's the problem.
That's
It is what it is.
That's not hard.
so are you looking for us to sign, approve the
Yeah,
contract?
isn't there a, yes, for the contract, the contract's in there, but I think there's a signature page, I believe.
It is, it says National Water Main Cleaning
right.
Company, C Street and Smith Ave.
They won the bid.
Subject to a performance bond, that's all.
Yeah.
Being adequate.
So it's all in there, so I'll get it.
And you know what, you know how much your performance bond is gonna be?
$872,000.
There you go.
Did you say you have a contract page for us to sign?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Sandy does.
It's not, it's in Sandy's packet.
That's okay, that's fine, as long as it's here. So the only thing that we're missing, or that you're missing to present this is the performance bond, is that
It's a
correct?
performance bond, again, I didn't see it, he didn't see it, so we just have to actually get that done, we'll get one. Okay?
Can we approve this contract pending the, performance bond?
Okay. I believe you can.
Sure you can.
I make the motion, we approve the contract for National Water Main Cleaning Company
Okay, so-
for $872,550 pending the receipt of the performance bond.
Yeah, the performance bond won't be for the whole $800 some odd dollars, it's usually a portion thereof. Or, you know what I mean, like, let's say it's 800 or $1 million, they might be putting out 20% or something.
No, yeah, but the bond will cover what we need, but the payment that they make won't be for that.
Right, and that's just the way to,
Yeah, they'll just,
you know, they're only gonna put up like.
whatever they
Yeah,
have
the
to,
bond.
whatever they have
The
to put
motion
them on.
didn't have a dollar amount for the
No.
performance
No,
bond.
that's all right.
Yeah, doesn't need it, per se. Okay, I have a motion to accept the contract, contingent upon a performance bond. Do I have a second?
Yes, second.
And second from Mac, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 400. Rapid rail line. Okay, that's U Street. is Tom Knapp, request for sewer connection.
Request for connection, that little building on Sandwich Road across, diagonally across from the EMS, they're looking to put, I think it's,
It looks like 3 duplexes.
3, is it duplexes? I think each one has 4 units in it, so I think it's 12 units total or something. Yeah, I think I gave you a little picture of it.
24
Yep.
bedrooms.
Yeah, there it is, 24 bedrooms, so I think it's 3 times 4, so
And?
8 per. And it's a 40B application, and again, I think a
It's
couple things gotta happen.
It's a
We're-
40B.
It is, it says right here, 40B comprehensive, so, we're completing our capacity study, and that'll be ready for the next meeting. And I would suggest.
I
the
make a
board take-
recommendation, we hold this off until we have a capacity study completed.
That's what I would suggest.
You wanna make a motion?
Is that a second, Donna?
Yeah, it's a second.
Are you all in favor? Postpone to the next meeting. Abatement on account number 737012, which looks like this is Caldwell
Yeah.
from Eagle, Idaho, Blue Jay Place, Eagle, Idaho.
The water's been off since 2018,
Yeah.
they go back a year, so she gets a full year abatement.
You normally give us a nice little cover letter.
Yeah.
We're saving paper.
You didn't
We're
tell us,
saving a tree.
you didn't tell us what you recommend. Usually you recommend.
Oh, yeah, just usually, you're right, usually, well, I recommend that we give her an abatement of $6,600. The water's been off since 2018, and what troubles me, and it's none of my business, but people don't pay, they just pay bills. All of a sudden they say, wait a minute, the water's off, just happen to read the abatement, because so we get a letter from the water district, and the water district, yeah, absolutely, it's been off since 2018.
So
And so we give them abatement. They
the
shouldn't be paying
abatement's
the
for
bills.
$626.
Yes, 1 year of EDU charge.
I make a motion that we abate Carol Caldwell in the amount of $626 for 42.
Second?
Second.
Back, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
400. Okay.
This was an interesting letter dated September 8th. She said she gave it to the town how many months ago?
February 24th.
February, and it never made it to us?
She sent it to the town clerk's office, is what she stated.
Yes, that's where it went.
To
So
put
it-
into your box.
So it went to the town clerk's office.
Make my assumption.
I didn't see, so she sent it to us directly, so you have it now. Again, in my report, I didn't really have, I want to talk about these issues. We're really getting overwhelmed with calls and letters pertaining to COVID. And people are saying that it isn't fair that they pay bills. Waterways called and said, we couldn't open, so why am I paying a sewer bill? They don't understand that we still have costs, we still have to maintain the pipes, we still have to run, they don't understand any of that. They're just saying that I haven't put a drop in that pipe, so why am I paying a usage fee? Restaurants are saying, the state's telling me, we've talked about that, I'm just getting tons of them, and I'm saying that we don't have a policy that addresses this, it's a brand new problem to us. And secondly, we have to establish a policy to be able to deal with this. So I don't know what we're gonna do, there's nothing I don't think we can do, water's still on, but anyways, I wanted the board to have
Well,
that.
wait, before you go there, were you gonna respond to Sherry Burke?
Sherry, I'm gonna respond to
Is
Sherry.
someone gonna respond to
I
her?
definitely-
Okay,
I will if you,
There's no problem.
Jimmy will?
We sent out a pretty standard letter, and I'll explain to her,
Thank you.
and we're getting a lot, like the lady, you'll see the letter from the lady that said she has an apartment, and she put her brother's for it, her brother's
got-
stuff in it, she's not using it, so why should she pay for it? There's tons of reasons why, but it's still a two-family home. Just because she decides to put furniture, all her brother's old stuff in it, and she doesn't have the ability to rent it,
Could I-
doesn't change what it is.
wait a second, before you get on to her, let's finish with this one here.
Okay.
Okay, I'll respond to her.
Okay.
It's just, we're getting,
All right.
so now I'm starting to share them with the boards, I've been getting them,
Yep.
I'm gonna start sharing them.
Okay, now,
I,
this next one I like,
Which one?
this one from Sylvia.
Miss Sylvia, yes.
It's, she's rented the downstairs, she's
Yeah.
tired of it, problems, never gonna rent again. Recent long eviction that is finally successful in February. I never intend to rent again. I have filled the apartment with my dead hoarder parents' stuff. That's still in the letter.
Yeah. What a parent
Uh,
stuff.
And Diane and I were talking earlier on this, in this particular one, she's got 2 units, she wants to go to 1 on it, but she's gonna have to really go through the building department and go through, assessors to get the designation changed.
To the building commissioners, and,
You know.
because I can't change anything because it's still
She
listed as
does
a
that.
single
Does she
family.
know that? Did somebody tell her that?
Nope, we just got it in, so we'll explain it to her, give her options, we will.
Okay.
So Guy will respond to
Yep.
Martha regarding the reconfiguration of the rezoning of
That-
the
That's
house.
our options
Yes.
to go there, because I can't arbitrarily say, yeah, you're right, I'm gonna reduce it. And I can't do it with anybody. I mean, one of the things that we have to make sure we do is we're equally to everyone, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. EDUs, it's unfair, well, that's great, but we're equally unfair to everybody.
Okay, so
I
there's,
don't pick and choose who not to be fair
the
to.
response to her is gonna be, she's gonna have to go to the assessors and building
That's
department,
what
to get a redesignation for her.
There, we have a thing in place where the first place she goes is to the zoning commission, the building commissioner. He has the right to change things, so he'll go in there and identify it as a 2-family, single family. If she's gonna become a single family, he'll tell her what she needs to
Okay.
do
That'll be
to
a
make
quick.
it a
So
single
you
family.
have specific steps
does.
that you will give to her to follow, because this has happened before.
Yes, I will tell her to call the building commissioner and he will address it, he'll walk her through the whole process.
Okay.
In writing, not a phone call, send it to her,
I'll send her a
hard
letter,
copy.
answer the letter to her.
Yeah,
Absolutely, I'll
thank
send her
you.
a letter. I'll mail her, absolutely.
Guy, your report.
Oh,
This is,
before you get,
yes,
I wanna touch on, he's talking about Waterwoods and these restaurants.
Well, that's my report, so that's what we
Oh,
talk
okay.
about that stuff. So, yeah, so I throw it to the board. Wicked Waterways, another business will call us and saying, we're not using water, so why am I paying sewer? I explained to them that we don't have a water-based system, it's EDUs. So, in theory, if you use no water, you still pay for the EDU, we have an EDU system. So, it's a hard thing for people to understand. I got a lady who wants to open a laundromat. She says, well, what do you charge? Well, EDU and a half per machine. Well, that's crazy, I'm not gonna use a lot of water, I'm gonna buy these new machines. Ma'am, I get all that, but we have no provision. It's, so right now, go down the list, here you are, laundromat, 1.5 EDUs per machine. And she goes, well, it's gonna cost me $900 per machine? Yeah, yes, ma'am. Well, I don't know, why would I wanna do that? And so everything's coming, and and my answers are pretty pat, I'm just, EDUs, no water, it's the way it is, it's the policy, and so if the board decides to do something, let's talk about it, that's fine. And remember, we have commitments and revenues, and
Yeah,
we
well,
just gotta be careful what we do.
Mr. Chairman,
yes, go.
you know, I agree with you for the most part, but I'm not agreeing, I think we have to come up with something. I mean, these people, they're losing everything. If we wanna keep them in our town, we've got to come up, we've got to do a compromise. It's my opinion that we have to do something.
That's
I mean,
fine.
I mean,
We'll just
what
have to cut the budget, we'll have to figure out where to cut the budget, the
I mean,
revenues
when
are
you
gone.
talk about Waterways, my God, they never even got to open, and then you're gonna penalize them for all that?
So-
And no, we're not gonna penalize them,
Just
we're gonna charge them our standard
We're gonna
billing.
charge them the EDUs.
Well, why are you gonna charge them if they couldn't even open? I mean, come
So
on.
where do you draw the line?
They weren't open all winter.
Well,
Yeah, they don't open during the winter.
Well, I know that, but
They
they
weren't open all winter, they
they-
had a chance to rent their parking lot, they
Chose not to.
kicked everybody out, so they didn't get the rental from the parking lot that they could have.
well, I just wanna go on record, is I think we should do
No,
something
I-
for the business owners.
Then what? What do you recommend? No charging for anybody?
No, of course not, but I think we could come up with, we could come up with an amicable solution. I just think it's wrong. I mean, we're not encouraging business. We're not encouraging business. Look at, if you look at the news tonight, look at all the businesses that are closing in Boston. Do we want that to start happening here? I mean, come on, I mean, we're a community, I mean,
I think it's already happened here.
well, I know it's
Well,
happening,
But I
but,
think, well, on this particular thing, we're not gonna solve this tonight, I can guarantee that.
no, I don't, but I
But
think we
let's
should
let-
look into it.
Donna, what I was gonna suggest is, for the next meeting, why don't individually we come back with suggestions we may have on that particular issue and how to solve it. To just kick it around as a
So,
problem doesn't solve the thing, so let's come up with a
So-
solution, whether they're good or bad.
Who do we go to find to find out a list of businesses that have never opened?
Who cares?
But if somebody's open and running, they're gonna get the same break as a business that didn't open?
No,
Maybe, maybe not. I don't know what the proposals are gonna come in at. What you're gonna suggest, or what Donna's gonna suggest, or Mac, or Peter, or myself. I mean, each one of us will have probably our own individual questions relative to that thing, so, and we should address them on that basis. Then let's throw them in the pot and see where we go from there.
I know we're not in a position to help people, we're in a bad position as we are. But it just seems like, I mean, even if we pay attention to these people and sit down and listen to, even if we make a recommendation that they can extend their payments, just something.
This whole COVID thing's unfair.
Yep.
I've got workers that go to work every single day and through the entire process, never missed a day for the entire thing, and they take a furlough. They take money away. They work every single day, non-stop, to get sewer continue to run so people and businesses could operate in this town.
Right.
And their reward was a furlough. So yeah, it's unfair. And so life's unfair, this whole COVID thing's unfair, we can pick it apart, and you're absolutely right, and it breaks my heart. But I don't know what the solutions are, you know, and everybody's faced with different dilemmas. So where do we go with all this?
We still
That's-
have a
that's the
plan.
problem.
We still have to keep it operating.
And to
The
me,
flows, according to what guys said earlier, the flows are a little less,
not
but they haven't
significant.
changed dramatically. So the plant operation and everything
because more
associated
people
with
are
the
staying
plant,
home and
the
using
cost, regardless,
their
the,
houses.
the flow is there. I don't care where it comes from, it's there.
But
Whether it comes from a
if-
business or whether it comes from your house,
What's your thoughts,
it's
Mayor?
there.
Mac?
And it has to be controlled and it has to be handled.
But
And
my
that-
concern is
still
that
a cost.
if we find some way to assist the businesses that haven't opened, then why aren't we assisting the senior that's been living there, or somebody only lives there 2
Bring your
months of the year?
proposal to the next
I
meeting.
mean, to me, there has to
Bring your
be something.
proposals
I
to
will.
the next meeting, Sandy, because we
I
can
heard
go on
you.
all night with this back and forth and around and up and down and pick everybody apart, whether
Well,
they bald-headed or not, do we give
I
them a
know,
break
so,
or whatever, you
yeah.
know, because they
Well,
don't
it's
use as
kinda
much
what
water
we
to
did,
wash
so
their hair. She uses
Trying to get
as
off
much
the
water to
water,
wash
so
his hair
that's
as we
what
do.
I don't know, my suggestion is, if possible, shut the water off.
And then
That'll
there's
do
the
it.
policy.
You already have a vehicle there.
Yes.
Then
So,
the trouble is, you shut the water off, they lose the fire systems, fire suppressing systems.
If they have that, yeah.
yeah, that's it.
And it has to be off for a year, and that's the limit, because in the winters, most people don't shut their water down because they got things going. But it's a suggestion, it's something they can.
That's why I say, let's bring this back
Okay.
as a, because we'll sit here and gum it to death and get nowhere fast.
That's just the thoughts and
Yeah.
mind expanding. Tomorrow they'll announce the grant money. Tomorrow they'll announce the grant money, so we'll know tomorrow how much grant money we got towards these projects that we got out there, so I'll know tomorrow.
Who will announce the grant money?
The coastal zone management.
Oh, thank you.
CZM, coastal zone management
Will
will
you
announce.
send us an email, and let us know?
I will.
Thank
I think
you.
I think we have 4 applications in, and so
Mhm.
one was for the, I think, Narrows, complete that
Right.
engineering. Gosh, we got one for Hines to get that resiliency ready. I think we got one for a bypass at Narrows, and we have one in for the basin. And so we'll find out tomorrow what states are going to give us. And it's a highly competitive market. A lot of communities are struggling for funds, and we're all looking for any chance we can get for grants, et cetera, so it's very competitive. And so we're hoping for the very best. We think our projects are very good, and they warrant the money, but again, it's a decision that will be made by the state.
Okay, well, we're under your report, can we go into groundwater discharge?
No, I don't want to talk about it. We figured
Okay.
that's so. Yeah, groundwater discharge. I ran into Claire in the hallway, and I said to her, she needs to check with Bourne, because they put theirs under the, they put the Bourne built a new
Yes, they did.
police station, and they've got a treatment plant, and they put it under, and so it's there. So I said, if you have any druthers about it, go check it out. And so groundwater discharge is our effluent. Our effluent has never been a problem, it's never been an odor concern. Matter of fact, it's one of the best effluents in the region. So it's odorless, you know, and you can go check it for yourself, you can go down there, you can grab it, put it in your hands. I go down there all the time.
Can we bottle it and sell it as Cape Cod
I
water?
would love to. If I put it through reverse osmosis, I can sell it as Wareham's best, I promise you. There's one more procedure. It's our influent that is all, the raw is where our odors are, and we got a raw basin, so I get all that, and people equate, oh, the plant stinks, the effluent has to stink. Furthest thing from the truth.
Okay,
So-
Russ, you had a meeting with? what the-
Safety complex.
Was the safety complex and had discussion on that?
We did.
How did you explain groundwater discharge to them?
Let me, before you start, that's said in front of selectmen's that she did not want raw sewer, open basins behind the police station. Said that came out of the meeting with you, so
Yeah,
she
that
got
was-
that info,
It's pretty rough.
It's incorrect information.
but it came across,
But
sorry.
before I went off on a tangent with this, I wanted to find out exactly what Russ said and see how big a disconnect is here.
Sure. So I don't remember verbatim what I said. I don't know if the meeting was recorded or not.
Probably is.
I'm fairly certain that I would not propose to put raw wastewater lagoons
I would,
next to a new public safety complex. I'm not trying to be
no,
a wise guy about it,
no,
but, Guy's 100% correct. With the treated effluent, maybe if you put your face right up to it, you might detect a slight odor. But I'm certain I explained that there would be no odor controls for treated effluent. And really the best way, if someone's concerned about the odors, is, like I mentioned, that the discharge is right behind the treatment facility. You can see it there. And we just built some brand new beds in the town of Falmouth right down the road. We can arrange a trip. So if you were questioning, well, what about when you put it in the sand and it spreads out, then does it have an odor to it?
No.
And it's
let me
Yes,
do a couple of quick assumptions. Assumption number one is that the 5-acre parcel that you proposed earlier, on that property, on that 24-acre site,
sure.
how would that effluent be discharged to that property if it's acceptable for groundwater discharge?
Sure, so it would be piped there.
Okay, pipe, and then what happens with the pipe?
So basically what happens is, I was just looking to see if there's a chalkboard I can scribble on, but, so the pipe would go, under the river, under the road, and there's a few different ways you can disperse, the wastewater into an infiltration bed. Some are very simple, it's just open and exposed pipe that dumps into over some riprap and it trickles out over the sand. What we like to do normally is bring the effluent up in the middle of the sand bed. It has like a honeycomb grate on it. That way it disperses out in a circular fashion and it loads the groundwater evenly. If you put it at one of the edges, you tend to get a point loading at one of the edges. So we designed it with we call it a center discharge. It's a grate. Of course, if there is an opportunity to combine uses underneath the parking lot with some other way to minimize tree clearing, that would be the.
Okay, let's take that for a second.
Sure.
If it's gonna go underneath the parking lot, what's your dispersal method?
I haven't designed one before underneath a parking facility. I know that Bourne has done that. I'm sure the folks in we've come up with a number of ways to do very creative effluent discharges. We've done sprinklers on soccer fields, golf courses, all sorts of different things, so I'm not concerned about our abilities to do it. I would have to look into the technical details to see exactly how it's, but the bottom
It's
line.
kind of like
is
a
it-
leaching field too, you can
No,
just disperse it over, they can squeeze you out.
I understand,
Very straightforward.
I understand the whole thing on it, but the problem seems to be, what we're hearing, or at least I'm hearing, is the dispersal method. The assumption is there's gonna be this river of poop running onto this piece of property, which is not the case, and we know that.
Even if you.
If we could add it, designed or looked at with the assumption that it's gonna be under a parking area. And then there would be no sprays, there would be no open water, there would be nothing over and above that somebody can point at and say, oh, that's nasty poo, that we don't like that.
Even with an open distribution system, essentially, the water's gonna disperse into the ground.
I know that guy,
Okay.
but I can
think
see
it's-
that happening.
Odor's not the issue with subsurface disposal, there's no odor, odor's not gonna be a problem.
I'm aware of that.
Everybody knows, although, if it's shallow enough, you don't have to vent it. If it's gonna be under a parking lot, it'll have to be vented, and the vent will have to have something on it in order to keep the odor from that, because that will happen, you'll get a little bit of odor. But not as much because the effluent's been cleaned already.
Right.
It's not like a septic system where you have, nothing, not clean material going in there, right? The only issue with subsurface disposal is, its life expectancy is short. Okay, they don't last forever, they have a short, it's not like we're dumping in the river, we can dump into that river virtually forever. You can't do that with subsurface disposal, sooner or later, it's gonna shut down.
And what do you mean by short? 5 years, 10 years, 20 years?
Maybe
25 years.
Go ahead.
Generally speaking, but.
Go ahead, Russ.
I agree that there is, with any sort of infrastructure, there's a life expectancy, and the difference between the infiltration beds, they're called RIBs for short, rapid infiltration beds.
Right.
There's the big open sand beds, 100% correct, that,
Yeah, no, I know what I'm talking about.
they do,
Usually.
they,
I try not to say it, but I don't.
they do have an added cost for maintenance, and that is one of the better you maintain it like anything else, the longer it will last for you.
That's right.
If you don't maintain these at all, you're probably looking at a year, best case scenario. And when I say maintenance, really the biggest maintenance is to rake the sand. You wanna keep it fresh, keep it repurposed. You don't want, even though it's treated effluent, if you just ignore it for an eternity, it will form like this biofilm, and it starts to
It's a
clog up with more.
biomat, big biomat, gets thick.
It does.
Turns kind of blackish in color. I've taken them out and they're like this thick and it's almost like a Brillo when you pull them apart.
Every several, 3, 4, 5 years, depending on the maintenance, you usually have to replace, 6 inches of sand on top, something like that. I can look back and it's very close to this, the ones that we just did for Falmouth, and we put together the O&M costs. I mean, that's obviously, they do require maintenance, much more maintenance than the discharge. Now, it's fairly maintenance-free, you discharge to the river,
Right.
that's that. But again, it's, when the town's considering options for expanding their disposal, it's one that needs to be evaluated.
Now-
All I'm looking at here, Russ, is we're looking at the option because the way I got information back on this meeting and what was transferred at this meeting, it appears that aside from smell, with storage, that it's the visual of having this liquid pouring all over the place,
It's,
or in a spray fountain, because it's type thing.
I would call that an incorrect statement.
Yeah.
And
I
the
mean,
sad part-
all I'm looking for is an option to consider, not to necessarily do, but at least to consider that it's an under the table dispersion,
Absolutely.
if you will, so that it's not visible to anyone. Vents, I understand that, but those are hidden very easily, plant a couple of bushes or whatever.
Yep.
But I'd also need to know what the maintenance scenario would be with that versus the above top, spread it out like.
It's a different system, entirely different system.
I understand.
Stratified in the whole 9 yards,
Yeah.
and more costly, but it's doable, absolutely.
And that's-
Different system.
One of the things too.
And life expectancy.
The life expectancies can be 20, 25 years, but remember that it goes in the cost because you're moving water, and so you gotta go coarse, fine, and et cetera, or fine, coarse, whatever, because it's gotta trickle through, because you have no access to it. With an open bed, you can actually skim them, every 3 years you skim them, put new sand, whatever you gotta do so you can get at it. So it's for longevity, it would be the best way, but it's still an option.
I don't disagree on that.
It's-
I prefer to do it just across the top and drop it, but however,
But if there's gonna be neighbors, you're
Just
right,
to
it should
have-
be conducive to
how
everybody.
do we,
I must have scraped myself on something coming in.
That's all
I just went
that's
to
all I'm
rinse
asking
off
that
the
for, is
blood
that,
that,
you know, we've got
dry
the
blood,
issue with
needless
the
to say, now
plant.
it's leaking again.
at the present time with
I hate
odors,
I hate that.
we've got neighbors there
I didn't even know I did it.
that may or may not smell the odors. I don't know. I listen to the complaints.
How stupid I am.
Yeah, it makes me wonder.
But in this-
I'd rather not
I already do
do
that.
something that's gonna generate a complaint on the front side if we can avoid it,
Sure.
if it's possible.
Sure, and really, there's a lot of dynamic, this is a fairly large parcel, it's 28, 30 acres. Wastewater would only need 5 to 10 acres of it. I'm not in the business of designing police but I understand it, I'm not sure if it's just a police station or if it's a shared use complex. I mean, obviously a shared use.
Not known yet.
It's gonna be much larger if it's a shared, I know that much. So just given the topography of the site, and obviously that the priority is gonna be locating the public safety facility with the entrance and the egress, how the vehicles have to come in, whether it's fire trucks, ambulances. That should all be laid out conceptually first, and then with the remainder of the site, I'm sure we can fit the recharge beds, whether it's under an existing parking facility, because if they lay out the parking facility in a way that may not be conducive to the wastewater, you know, I would be curious, I would think the first step is to get a conceptual layout of what that looks like, and really let them have the priority of the site, where's the best for the complex. Wastewater is a little more flexible, we can put that, move that,
If that's the site that's.
If.
I mean,
Sure.
and
But-
yeah,
the longer that we don't know, the longer it takes to get this thing moving forward,
sure.
which means we'll have our capacity report at the next meeting. So theoretically, what you're looking at here is what, 400,000 gallons per day possible into this discharge?
We wanted
Going to plant at the capacity, minus what we can put in the river,
Correct.
the leftover can go into this discharge.
440,000 gallons per day, but a few considerations on that is, that brings us up to 2 million gallons.
Mhm.
You know, what is in the town's future after that? Is it 2.5, 3, do we, and I know it's a very hard number to predict, because there's always new developments, things coming in. But if we pick a site for groundwater recharge that can handle 440,000 gallons, it would really be in the town's best interest to have available land to expand that further if we need to. We don't have to clear, we don't have to do, but we want that land, because something tells me we're gonna be above 2 million, or
I
Wareham's
mean,
gonna be
you
above.
know, if I were to give you a number, and guy's gonna cringe. You know, I would look at it, at dealing with a number of like 4 million gallons.
That's a number, but that's a lot of gallons to put someplace. I still don't wanna go, I met with an engineer today, who directional drills, one of the top 3 in the country. He said we can do 9,000 feet per blow, which I was told 900, which is totally false. He does a topography, they're actually doing a benchtop model for us. I told him to give me a price to do a benchtop. He's got a lot of alternatives. I think we can get the canal for a lot less than we've been quoted, and I think we can get there sooner. So I'm excited about that, and I'll keep the board informed on that. But you're right, I think eventually the town's gonna need 4 or 5 million gallons, because we've got all the West Wareham, all the Shangri-La. There's a lot of potential out there, there's a lot of building lots out there, and building isn't gonna stop in Wareham. So we have to look at the total potential, and how do we get out there? And we also may wanna do a decentralized treatment plant out there, and that talks about
Exactly.
groundwater. So we found a groundwater out there someplace, we wanna build something around there to get all these areas. We have a lot of options, we gotta start talking about it, we gotta start looking at all our
Well,
options
he was,
for the growth of the future
right,
of
I mean,
town.
he was looking for a number, I'm giving him a number
You
for
ain't
what,
need numbers,
basis
but yeah.
on expansion.
Yeah, so 4 or 5 million, you're right, 4 to 5 million is realistic for the town of Wareham. It's realistic.
What I could add to that is that, we're kind of going back a little bit to something that's unrelated, but it will be related in a second if you bear with me. So we had talked earlier about the SRF funding for the projects like that, and, you know, so low interest loan program, there's a potential to get 0 interest loan. There's 5 stipulations to get the 0 interest loan. There's, I summarized them,
Right,
and there's a few things that are out of the town's control. The project has to remove nutrients, which it does. The town can't be under a consent order, which it's not, that's good. The project has to be deemed consistent with regional wastewater plans, which I'm sure we can do that. But the 2 that are in the town's control is, one, there has to be a growth neutral bylaw, and the other one is there has to be a completed comprehensive wastewater management plan, the CWMP for short. And what that plan is, spells out what's going on for the next 20 years. It gives the projections of how much flow, things of that nature. And the difference, when I ran the numbers, if you borrow $9 million at 2% for 20 years, you're paying a little over $2 million of interest. If you did it for 30 years, you're a little over $3 million of interest. So for every $1 million, you're around $180,000 at 2% interest. So by not having the comprehensive wastewater management plan incompleted, potentially costing the town, you know, $200,000 for every $1 million that's loaned. And, you know, we have these projects, we have force mains coming up, we have all sorts of stuff in the future. I can't stress it enough to.
So the plan is being worked on, so I
I
talked
know.
to Joe, the plan's being worked on,
I
we'll
know.
finalize that. And so that doesn't bother me, what really bothers me is neutral. Because you're talking about, if it's a 2-bedroom home, we have to make a decision, does it stay 2, or can you go to a 3? If you look at all our sewer areas, these 2-bedroom cottages are now, I don't even want to, we got a 7-bedroom home going in, we got 5-bedroom, so that when you plan an area of sewer, and you say, okay, I'm gonna budget this many gallons because we're doing this, all of a sudden those gallons mean nothing, because people come in and they become mega mansions everywhere. And so what the SR funding is saying, for 0%, you gotta have a management plan. Because you know, you've got growth of the plant, you're making plans for everything, and you can't just arbitrarily, people go crazy. And so the town would have to adopt something that says, in the sewer area, if it's a 3-bedroom home, it can be a 4. If it's a 2-bedroom, it can be a 3. And that's it. It can't become a 7, it can't become a 10, and that type of thing. And that's gonna be a tough sell for the town, where last time we tried it, we got blown out of the water. You can try it again, but that's gonna be what stops this town from having the 0%
You have to
financing.
deed restrict it, because otherwise it'd be the way to stop it.
So it becomes a really big problem. We tried it last time, and it became a major issue, and I don't see that changing. I don't, because people are concerned. If I wanna put this is America, we all have rights, and it's not about community anymore, it's about me. And if I wanna put a 7-bedroom, I wanna put a 7-bedroom. I don't care what you say. Those are the kind of things, like sump pumps. People say, well, I don't care about the law. I want a sump pump, I'm gonna put my damn sump pump, and that's it. No more community, no more better good. So that's gonna be our fight. And so 0%, I'd like to see it. If we can get over that hurdle, it'd be exciting. It would be exciting, because that would give us tremendous savings. $3-4 million savings. But anyways, that seems to be the only hurdle that I can see.
Who needs to generate that plan?
I believe the town, planning board, all that, I think it's gotta be a town
You gotta
decision.
get the planner involved. We just did the one for drainage, for all the stuff in the town. We just did that, which was another one that, in order to do things with grants and stuff, we had to have. So we just did that one. So this should be maybe his next hurdle to do that.
What kind of a time frame are we looking at?
So it actually doesn't have to be, you
Wait,
can,
wait, the funds we're getting now, we're not even gonna apply, we can't even get the 0, so that's life.
well, as long as the bylaws in place by the time the project's completed, so by the time the project that we're applying for, the D-night filters and the odor control, I mean, it's still gonna be at least a couple of years till it's completed, we haven't even started design.
Yeah, it won't take that long to put that together. I think he put the other plan together in 10 months.
Again, and I'd love to see it. If it can be done, it can be done. I just concern myself with the pushback.
Okay, wait a sec, where does the initiation come from?
Send a letter over to Ken, tell him what you wanna do. And let him have at it.
Okay.
And he'll
That's a
take it.
planning department issue for sure.
Yeah. Cause it's a tough one,
Well, but you gotta light the fire and get them moving.
absolutely. And it's a better good concern over an individual concern. That's America, that's our problem today in America. Better good doesn't matter anymore. It becomes individual, and that's the way it is. So that's a
Because
good,
this,
I agree with you. It's,
on the neutral aspect, that includes business as well,
I have to go back and look at the details,
or is it only residential?
I have to go back and look at the details, but I can, for the next meeting, I can be prepared to talk more about it if that's.
I appreciate that,
Sure.
so we'll have some idea.
Curtis suggested, see, that they tried to do it in Falmouth, so there's some background, all the towns, there's plenty of information out there to give us the specifics, and we can actually call DEP for specifics, but it's just the generalization of it is restriction, and that's a hard thing to do, people don't like to be restricted.
Well, I understand that, but I mean,
We gotta
and
do
just
it both.
because we put something together doesn't mean it's gonna fly through
No, I get it.
town meeting, but,
Yeah, but
at some point, we need to
You gotta
start
try.
something and see what the hell happens. The worst that can happen is we can, get thrown out. I've been thrown out of better places.
I agree, no, it's absolutely
The first
100%
time.
worth pursuing, the fools if we don't. It's easy to be told no, but to do nothing, we get the
We
noise.
haven't been very good at these kinds of things.
No, we never have.
We haven't been very good at it. We still haven't dealt with our sump pump issue, and we haven't got anybody else to start going around and checking and doing the things that need to be done.
Well, the sump pump issue is an issue because,
It's a huge issue.
who has the authority to go into somebody's home and force them to disconnect their sump pump?
You'd have to do it, what you'd have to do
We
is
don't
you'd
have
have
that
to have
authority.
some way to check that they actually have a sump pump. So if you can prove that there's a sump pump in the house,
We have
it's
a
an
way to
easy
do
thing
that,
to
don't we,
do.
Guy?
If you can't
Sorry?
prove there's
We
a
have a
sump
way
pump
to
in the
prove
house,
that, don't we?
it's
I
much
went into
more
a
difficult.
house in Briarwood and I saw the sump pump, and I was with Bob Epe. Tell us how to get rid of that sump pump, because it ain't happening. You tell me, we'll get rid of it. It's in Briarwood, we were into the basement. Tenant said, oh yeah, the landlord. Landlord said, no, I didn't put it there, the tenant did. We went back and forth. It's gotta go. Right, so if we can get rid of that one, then we can stop. That one we know, we've seen it. I've seen it, Bob Epe's seen it. And it's
Yeah,
still there.
see, that's actual proof. If you have actual proof, it's easy.
How,
Because
what's
we have-
easy? Okay, how
we
we need to go from
We
there?
have rules and laws that say that you can't do it. So
Who's
it's-
gonna enforce them? Who
well,
enforces it?
The court will enforce that. You can get the court to enforce it.
So, now, then who takes them to court? The town or the sewer
Yeah, take 'em to
department?
court. Yeah, you gotta take them to court.
So I gotta get Rich Bowen.
Ultimately, you ask them, the best way is to do is get them voluntarily do it.
I understand that.
If they don't voluntarily do it, then you have to take them to court. There's no other way.
Because it's a state
You
problem.
can't go up and, lock them up.
It's a state problem. There's more, I can't name the communities in this state that are fighting the same issue.
Oh, yeah.
And we're all struggling, and none of us are making any headway.
But we've had this
We're all struggling.
we've had this conversation before, and it's been circular conversation,
Absolutely.
and we're still in the same
For
circle,
years.
you know?
It's a civil
So what
issue.
we've done is, one of the things, remember, one of the things we have done, Mr. Chairman, we said that if you're in an area where there's sump pumps, you must put a grinder pump. Because grinder pumps
That's-
cannot take sump pumps.
Right, okay.
So we've done that.
We've done, we
Done
are
some.
taking steps, there's no
Yes, we
question
have.
about it.
Yes, we
But
have.
to address what he's saying, you know, he still hasn't answered my question.
It's a tough-
Who
it's a tough
does
fight.
the enforcement? Right now, we have no enforcement vehicle available to us,
Tell you what,
i.e. sewer
I
department,
will-
to
I
do
will-
it.
I'll get you an enforcement procedure, okay?
That would be great.
Todd's done it, and they've got sued many times. Actually, their mistake was they tried a building that was owned by lawyers. They got hammered, but they think they're gonna still go again at it, they think they can. The town council wants to sue anyway, so they're
So
gonna go back at
the
it.
lawyers,
Depends on what you have for regulations.
The
in
lawyers
place.
are
We
defending
actually
them
have
pro
good ones
bono.
in place. It's just that we're not enforcing them, and the thing is that it's hard to say. If they don't wanna let you in the house, how do you prove it? The only other thing to do is you gotta get a warrant, right, and enter upon the process, the thing to see
well,
it.
we've got a,
And that's
correct-
expensive.
Guy,
Can't we
correct me if
camera
I'm wrong, we've got a method, potential method to determine whether or not he has a sump pump in his house vis-a-vis the
Smoking?
cammering.
Oh,
So
cameras.
we can smoke it, in theory, and people get smart today, when you put a sump pump, there's no, if you will, trap, so it come in the house, you can see it, you can smoke them out. So there's ways, also, we can see the water coming out, I have to prove it's sump pump water, because I have to about duration in the flow. Because you flush the toilet, there's no flow, so you can put the camera there, you can see the surge. So you can say, okay, that's a surge, again, a good lawyer will argue, and that's just the way it is. And then the smoke, we say smoke isn't there, and we can say, well, we smoked the basement, do you have a sump pump? And they can say, no, but something else is wrong, and I have to get permission to get in there, so we can do those things. How effective are they? They're costly, but how effective are they? I'm not so sure. I ask a bunch of consultants, and it's 50-50, some say you're wasting your money and time, others say, well, at least you'll know. So we can do that.
Well, it's,
easy to smoke.
you know, I don't think it's a question with.
We know.
Do we know which is the
pretty
worst
well
part
now.
of town? What's the worst part of town for sump pumps?
Downtown
We
Wareham.
in it? We in it?
Downtown Wareham.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Every business has a sump pump downtown. Matter was so bad that they had to disconnect them from the drainage.
Yep.
So how about the businesses downtown Wareham? Where are they gonna put it? Where are they gonna put it? They used to put it to the drainage, and they stopped them. So where do you think they're going now?
Oh, yeah.
They stopped them from putting in the drains, so now they
Yeah.
put them in the sewer.
That's right.
It's absolutely absurd not to put them in the drains. But guess what, where they came from?
Yeah.
They're just going back there.
Exactly.
I agree with
It
you.
doesn't make any sense.
Especially
You know,
today
the
with the treatment.
groundwater that you're pumping from your basement is clean water.
Mhm.
There's nothing wrong with that, well, you could drink that water.
And if there was some contaminant, if you had a filter system
Just like
for
the
drainage
water.
like you do, it would take it away. So it would be
Very
done.
easy.
Be a done deal.
So, you know, we're gonna have to do some homework on this. I think I'll do some work on this, I'll get back to you. Give me some time. I'll do some homework, I'll come up with something.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so
Maybe we go to their houses, up against the wall.
Sump pump patrol, sump pump patrol, yes.
Some pump patrol, we're up against the wall.
And you may get a few, because there are people that respect it, others, well, you know how that goes.
Yeah, there's, you know, the people that, you know, the regular, everyday people, they're not, you know, they're probably, if they get caught, they're probably gonna be okay. But there's just so many people today that just have a whole different attitude.
Actually, yep.
It's all changed, and they're just gonna say, you know what, look, we were at a hearing the other night, and it was clear that somebody lied, right, at a hearing, clear. I mean, I looked right at them and I said, are you sure such and such like that, right? And they looked away, right away, right? And I knew they were lying, right off the top. And I said, are you sure? Oh, yeah. You know, they lie, and they can lie right to your face, and they don't think anything of it.
do they think, is there a cost for that?
It's pretty simple, when somebody, if you're talking to somebody like that, and you say to them, and you put them on the thing, and they go like this and look away, they are lying.
Yep, absolutely.
There's not a question they're not lying. That's an easy one, that's an easy tell.
The National Geographic did a good article on lying, everybody lies, and you think about the times I think about when I tell my kids, tell them I'm not on the back dead phone. Tell them dad's not home.
I want you to know I've lied a few times in my life too, I just
I
want you to.
think about that, I say, so what do I teach my children? Tell them I'm not home. So I
I've
just
lied
taught
a
them to
couple of
lie.
times in
That's okay to
16
lie,
years.
and so now all of a sudden I lie, I say, who taught you how to lie?
Maybe two.
Yeah.
I'm a fisherman, I'm a born liar.
You're,
I'm the worst of them.
Good point.
it's crazy.
It's big, really.
Yeah, crazy.
Okay, let me-
Hey, I was telling everybody to lie the other night. Right, because if you go to Dennis, they have a 15-minute testing facility. If you go down there to get tested, right, they'll test you in 15 minutes. But if you don't have any symptoms, it costs you like $200. But if you say I have a sore throat or whatever,
It took a while for them to get the hint.
I know, then it's
Yeah.
free, okay, because the government will pay for it, all right?
You
Because have
repeated it enough, I think he finally got the hint.
He, you know, I don't think he did. I think he went out of the room. He says, "Oh, I
Everybody,
already sore throat."
everybody
It was like-
listening to you
At
did.
one point, I had my head down on the desk. Are you kidding me?
Okay.
Okay, unfinished business, sump pumps we just discussed, we know that issue's going on.
What was this thing in here, in our packet?
Which one?
August 20, Town of Wareham Industrial Park Sewer CAD
Well, we talked
modeling.
about that,
So-
that talked about Stone Bridge and, I'm sorry, the
Yep.
Stone Path. It talked about the capacity of Kendrick, capacity.
thought so.
It's all there, so that's, that's for FYI, we talked about it, there's your.
Is this yours? Have you looked at the last page?
Guy, are we still,
That may be something we,
are we still pumping that in through that line we snaked in the gravity line?
which one?
We had a line
I
go
think the
back
arrow's
going out
going
to
the
the
wrong
industrial
way.
park.
So this
years
was a
ago,
big, we
gravity
actually
line.
took this from
And
another.
we staked the
piece.
line
Bigger,
in,
but
we staked a 2-inch
Look
pressure
at the
line
arrow.
into it.
It was main pieces.
Indian Nick.
Yeah, they snaked the line. We still use
Yes,
this.
yeah, main pieces,
If that
that's all
was the
that
case,
flow
there should be an
from
error coming up.
Red Brook up the upper
It's
part,
something.
lower
Let me take a
part,
picture
medical
of it.
center.
Is it still
and
working?
yeah,
It's
yes.
100% good catch, it was very good.
Yeah, it comes into.
You're hired.
It was a failed line, you know, so we just snaked the line inside of it. They said, try
Let's
this.
see my
and
son.
it- and it
Where's
seemed
my
to work.
sewer
It
go?
does, because they're using it.
Okay.
Those goes on in the backyard.
Got it, thank you.
What's the matter?
Her sewer goes in the backyard.
The schematic I had of all the pump stations, there was an arrow going the incorrect direction.
See from Indian Nick, Oak Street to Indian Nick,
It does,
Avenue A is going into Indian Nick, so that's
it does,
the arrow, what?
it does.
All right, then where does Parkwood, Oak, and Indian Nick go?
Then this goes to Narrows.
Okay, so guess
It's
what?
Narrows, the main building is Narrows,
So
everything goes to
Avenue
Narrows.
A
So
goes
you're
to
saying-
Indian Nick?
Yes, and then Indian Neck, this here goes to here.
Okay,
It's missing an arrow.
thank you.
Yeah.
I'm saying
They
myself,
all go to,
where'd
and
my
I mean,
shit go?
that's why Indian Neck is a bigger station.
I'm sorry?
Avenue A,
You mind if I
goes
just take a
there,
picture of that? Okay.
and, you guys from Oak Street and Doc go there, and then it shoots down. Actually, it shoots back to the force main, to the plant. I'm sorry, I lied to you. It shoots to the plant.
Okay,
Goes to force main into the
I'm
plant.
saying myself, the arrows are going the wrong way.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay,
So no attention to the arrows.
okay,
So glad I have something.
Stone Path, we're still,
Where do you live?
I live on Great Neck.
Maybe on the list.
On Great Neck.
Great Neck.
Actually, one of them was, there's a bunch of those areas were on our original list.
Wilmington.
Wilmington, over that way, over towards, what is that?
Agawam?
Agawam.
Arlington Street.
And we didn't do it.
Well,
The cost is prohibitive.
Agawam fought it
You know,
completely,
the cost is prohibitive now.
Yeah.
You
I'm
know,
surprised you didn't continue down to Shangri-La after Parkwood.
see, you know what the problem
That's
with
not-
Shangri-La is, you don't know why nobody touches that. You got the best gravel you ever saw in your whole life in Shangri-La, dude.
That's hammer in the water.
I've dug 24 feet there, 24 feet, and found nothing but sand. Just absolutely beautiful.
No, I agree, but the problem is it goes to the groundwater too quick. It's the
It does,
groundwater.
that's exactly
And
why
then
it goes,
gets
that's
over-
why it's
that's
zone
right.
2.
And it gets over there, and
It's
a
less than
problem.
2 minutes an inch in a perk, right? So it flies
Okay.
through.
So the waterways are getting hammered, but yeah, you're right.
And in a dry season, like right now it is, it's dry right now, that water will go through there. We poured 24 gallons up there in like, I don't know, a minute and a half. That stuff just flies through there.
That's why it's a 5-foot separation instead of 4.
Well, with that, and if that's the case, the soils are that acceptable, all this talk that we're talking about, the rapid infiltration beds have been saying 5 acres, it could be considerably less, depending on if we get really good infiltration rates. Again, we haven't even, we just got the
I
signed
don't know
contract
what the
today.
soil is like, believe it or not, I've only done one over there, and it was pretty sandy.
Mhm.
And you know what, and I saw it coming out actually at the school, and the stuff coming out of the school was all sand too.
Are all those boulders there, like where the new school is?
Yeah, there were a few boulders that came
both
out.
So it all came out of that?
But they're very sporadic.
Okay,
They're
so they're
not,
not,
in other words, they're not like boulders everywhere. There's a sporadic one here and there.
right.
Okay, Stone Path, we're still getting
Yes,
nothing.
we sent them letters to industrial, they'll get back to us, see what
Okay.
they're doing, and that evaluation, they're done. What they have, we're taxed, once everything's built up, we're gonna struggle, we're gonna be in serious trouble.
No, I
if
saw
they
that
wanna
report,
expand,
they
they're done.
can't do anything more right now.
And they want restaurant, they want licensed beer and all that, so that's all flow, and they're already at max capacity,
Yeah.
just, so we're.
Did
we're-
you
we're troubled.
increase their EDU?
Yes.
You did up to
One.
2.
Yeah, I did, I moved up to 2.
Any new homes connected to sewer?
No, but they're starting to come in, I got 3 applications, so we'll
Okay.
start to, and a couple of Rose Point, which is really good.
So that 70, 80 odd number that we had is gonna be down now.
It's down quite a bit, we've done
Yeah.
a few, it's been nice,
Yeah.
it's been nice.
The E rates we're still working on, we got some water
Rose
information
Point
and,
Did we get anything from onset yet?
Stuff is hard as a rock. It's
no,
all
that's, you
glacial
just got the thing out, they
Until
haven't
you
got.
get down by the beach
the
where the
information
glacier
back to
washed
them
it
yet.
out.
Have we
washed out.
paid
They're
them?
not
But other than that, it's
computerized.
like terrible stuff.
Wait,
They're
wait,
not
Plus
computerized. They're not computerized.
Then how do they send their bills out, manually?
Now they're billing like crazy,
You know what?
I'm not in on it.
It was only 9.
Anybody in onset?
it's crazy. I have nothing from onset.
So they're
I
not
know.
computerized, how in the world
No.
do they
I
do
have
their
no idea.
billing?
That's their worry. I
They
have no
told us
idea.
that when we met
Yeah.
them, that was their issue.
Yeah.
The first time I got numbers, it took them, I wanna say 6 weeks.
Yeah, Oh,
I
yeah.
did you.
yeah. No, I'm not,
And
they've
that's why
got
they
their
said,
shtick, let them do their shtick.
buy us a program and then we can have it, and it's quite expensive.
Okay, new business, just a, update on the meeting that we had joint with the Bourne Sewer Commissioners the other night. Sandy, Donna, either one of you guys wanna comment on that?
Well, from what I took away from it, I thought it went extremely well. Their biggest concern was communication. And I think, I really think that, overall, you know, I don't see why we can't communicate more with them.
Right.
And, you know, just update, you know, our schedules. They really appear wanting to work with us. And they wanna be a partner. They just wanna, you know, doesn't take much to just CC them on things. And just, you know, give them a call now and then and let them know, and they have their little formal meetings. But I thought, that was what I got out of the entire meeting, was communication.
Sandy?
I think we surprised them. We've had some of these capital items on the books, looking at them for almost a year and a half and never told them. But I would like to see if we can find a way of giving them the details of the cost for project. I.e., this is the contract for engineering, this is the contract for feasibility, this is the contract for on and on and on, so they can see the makeup of the total line, so they know how we came to the number we reached.
I don't think that,
How do
But
we
there's
get that
two,
to them?
that's not a problem, is it?
What I'm saying is that when we do a project, we do estimates.
Yeah.
You know, we come down here and say, oh,
no,
why is it
we're
big?
not looking
At
for
what
the,
point do you wanna give it to them, once we
when
got
we have
hard
a
number?
contract.
No, you wanna give it to,
Contract.
you wanna basically give it to them at the estimate stage.
Which
And
is,
That's what
you
I'm
wanna
asking.
give it to them at the estimate stage, so that they are beginning to plan a budget for what
Okay.
it's gonna cost them. The contract stage with the actual figures and all may well reduce that number that they're working with, and so they're,
so as we come,
So they
we,
should have both.
one, tell them what we're planning.
exactly.
Then when
Because
we
that's what-
have an estimate, which means we go to town meeting and ask for the funds, tell them that the funds at the
Right.
time, and then back it up with the actual contracts that are
Yeah.
being signed as we go along.
Yeah, it should be,
So,
they should get that.
Sandy's absolutely right. You need to be telling them,
Yeah.
in my opinion, you need to be telling them when you're getting ready to do whatever you're gonna do. We're
Exactly.
planning on adding a basin, it's gonna, you know, we don't know exactly what it's gonna cost yet.
but there's
we're
something in
looking
the
into
works.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so many words. We're looking into adding a basin, you know, so then now they're awake and they say, okay, if they add a basin, it's gonna cost us money. Then when you get get some kind of a basis, you send them the thing and you say to them, okay, look, we've got an estimate, $2.5 million to put the base in it. Right, so now they can plan ahead, they said, okay, we got 2.5 million. If it comes out 2 million, fine, if it comes out 1.8, that's even fine.
Then provide them with the actual contracts that
Yeah.
make it up.
Yeah, I mean, they should have known that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
no excuse for not telling them that, there really isn't.
Nope.
They really should know that, look,
They shouldn't,
if it was the other way around,
We'd wanna know.
we would freak out.
Of course,
You know, that all of a sudden they're doing stuff, they didn't tell us anything, and all of a sudden they spring this number on us.
This number, yeah, and I couldn't agree more, and I think that was the whole point.
Yeah.
You know, they like to plan ahead too.
their cost is almost $700,000.
yeah.
For the equalization base, the denitrification filters, was that the two of them? Well,
Yep.
yeah, because
Yeah,
C
the
Street is not them, so the
That's
denitrification and the new lagoon,
Mhm.
their share is about 700,000.
And the unknowns are the odor control, that's theirs.
And remember, they have a lot less people to
Yeah.
spread it over.
Spread it over, exactly.
And they didn't budget for it,
I mean, that's.
but you
that's-
did mention to them we would look at a payment schedule.
Schedule,
If-
yeah, if
You know, we
needed.
would do it on a individual basis, I wasn't looking at it as a blanket
Well, I mean,
across
the
the
way we
board. but-
bond it, we can make them pay it the same way we bonded it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean.
that's
so
what they were looking
They
for,
pay
if
you,
we were,
like
if
we
we
pay,
were
whatever.
Yeah.
taking a loan, can
That's-
we pay
that's
you
what I'm
our
saying,
share
so
as
we
we
would
pay
look
for
at-
the,
yeah,
yeah.
that's exactly
As long
what.
They're
as
doing
we
it
get
that way presently.
As long as
They
we
pay us $188 a year
Yeah,
for the 20-year loan.
yeah,
that we
yeah, I
have for the
think
plant.
that's, I think
It's
that's
being done.
pretty standard, I mean, I don't
Well,
think that's a problem.
Basically, Guy, what they're looking at is going forward on what was happening
Yeah,
or not
because
happening, that's all.
it's been a practice when there's a large number
But-
that they paid over so many years,
Right.
like we paid over
Yeah,
so
they
many
pay
years.
it the same way, they gotta pay the bond number, they gotta pay whatever, and.
Yeah, go ahead, Russ.
I'll throw it, I know Guy loves it when I raise my hand when I started off, but I'll throw this out there. You know, I'm more than happy to attend meetings with Bourne, whether it's, or if it's selecting meetings. I mean, the town's been very good to GHD, and I wouldn't think of charging a dime. If you want a representative or a liaison, someone looking out for the best interests of the town, we don't work for Bourne. We don't have plans to, so I'm more than happy to
There may
attend.
be some of those
That's awesome.
instances where I
Yeah.
would like to call on you,
Sure.
but
So, again, I
Appreciate
said to
that.
Russ, I appreciate it, but I would, Russ could write up all the paperwork he wanted, and we present it to whether the board or us, and maybe we'll present it to the town. Only because GHD may not be here next year, and then we have something to do with it. So I think the communication between you guys, we prepare it, we give it to you guys give it to the board, you're developing a relationship. My relationship, and I deal with and whoever it is now, but I deal with the DPW director or whatever, and so that's my responsibility. Derek was dealing with their town administrator, so when we have a budget issue, he does the budget, it's his responsibility to call them. So we all have responsibilities. I don't want Russ or any engineer to be responsible for something, because next year we might not have him. But he can help us with
it's
everything
not
and
that,
documents.
he's got the knowledge to explain stuff better than I can.
Yeah.
As long as I'm in the mix, I'm more than happy,
I mean,
you know.
Thank you.
and-
That's all I'm saying.
And when I
Fingers
get
crossed, I'll
questions,
still be here
when I
next
get
year, so.
questions that come out, you know, I can sit there and give an answer that doesn't necessarily mean it's right.
No, I get that.
I can do that too.
You know,
If we're on a project,
I wanna
then you can,
defend you though,
you can-
you know, we've done pretty good with those guys. We've had a bunch of meetings, we started out where they wanted like a huge amount of capacity more, they want this, they want that. They were very disheartened by the way that the agreement was made and, you know, all these kinds of things. But I think we've worked that out, and now they're sort of understanding that we're on the same plates, we want them to know what's going on,
Yeah.
whatever, and I think we've done a hell of a job, Jim. I mean, it was a good setup, and it's
I
done
agree.
nicely.
I agree.
And I think we're getting, you know, that I think that they'll listen to whatever we tell them, because they know we're telling them straight. We're telling them skinny, you know?
There's a level of trust there,
Yeah,
and
there's
that,
some trust.
that's really,
Jim, it was a good response, it was a good thing to do this, you did the right thing.
Oh, thank you.
absolutely.
I don't wanna patch it too much.
No,
because I
no,
know you-
no, it's not,
No, I did good, I'm good, no.
His head gets too big and then.
I don't wanna catch up to that other guy.
That's good stuff. Mr. Chairman, my report, I apologize, I forgot, there's a timeline, you have a copy of the timeline, and so it talked to that, I don't know if anybody wants, I have a couple extras. I talked about the timeline for all the projects we have, and all the town meetings following. So I know Sandy is a stickler for dates, times that we didn't pass on, so she got
Get
one.
a copy.
You
So we'll
can't
give her
accept
one.
that now, your time is up.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Shit, okay.
Sorry. So I want you to have, this, but, and went to Mac, but this timeline's here, so you can have that timeline.
You already had your report.
No, just one, I need one from Mac, let's go back and take you one back.
So, yeah.
Let me,
The one you got him?
yeah, let me have one now.
I want, here, you've got one.
That's different than this.
It is?
Yeah, so that there's three.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I brought copies, actually.
Okay. I thought I bought one. Oh, I did, I only bought one, I bought one extra.
You're
one.
always,
No, it's, yeah.
I bought only two.
You won't.
you're always not providing
Thanks.
the full package, guy lately, come
Well,
on.
the back page you really don't need, but that's okay. See, this is, I have two,
Yeah, got it, this is a two-page document.
yes, I have two.
I got it, I got it.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. What did you
Okay.
get? Cannolis?
Fresh cannoli.
Where'd you get them?
Mezzaluna.
A mezzaluna,
It's
okay.
$75 for ethics, so cannoli $6 each. I've been doing it for 10 meetings and I gotta stop.
I'm not a
Here you
big,
go, Pat.
I'm not a big
Here
cannoli
you go,
guy,
Pat.
believe it or not.
Oh, yes, you are. I haven't seen these.
I like,
You haven't
my
seen
favorite is rum cake.
Oh,
It's
mine
almost the
too.
same.
I'll keep that in mind.
I
This is
will
almost
eat
the
rum
same,
cake
Pat.
until I pass out.
Would you like it? That's a rum cake.
Just gotta get the rum filling for the next time, there you
There
go.
we go. Are we still open? Are we, we?
Well, I
I
don't
don't
know.
think it's on, I just looked
Yeah,
at
it's
it.
on us.
We're gonna go, we're
We're
going.
still live right now.
We're still live.
Okay.
So
All right.
let's be careful where we go, we're
All
live.
right, Donna.
I go to Mike's Pastry Shop on Modern down in North End, for years, right?
Yep.
And, cannolis never did it for me for some reason. But I'll tell you, I love rum cake and lobster tails.
Lobster tail.
Our next meeting date,
Oh, they can put you out, man.
Date and time, yeah.
You got
our
sugar, you better
our
stay
next
away from
meeting
those.
date is the 8th of October,
Mhm.
and it is gonna be in
3:20.
the Palace.
Okay, 3:20.
Oh, I
Man.
don't know why we gave it up to.
I'd like to make a
Donna,
motion that we adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank goodness.
Time? What time is it?
21 half a second.